Venezuela's Electoral Council has declared President Nicolas Maduro the winner of the election. The result comes despite independent exit polling suggesting opposition candidate Edmundo González had captured twice as many votes. So for more, let's bring in our Latin America executive editor, Crayton Harrison in Caracas. Crayton, thanks so much for joining us. Bit of a surprise if you look at what was announced just half an hour ago versus some of the exit polls, which had suggested that the opposition leader was on course to win these elections. How likely is it that the public will actually accept this vote?
Well, that's really the million-dollar question that you're bringing up, and not just the Venezuelan voters who, of course, have gotten somewhat accustomed over the years to sham elections, but also the international community, which is really key here because the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has kind of tried to use this election to get back into the international stage after years of sanctions and being sort of blocked off from the international community, and he had hoped to win legitimacy through this election, sort of be accepted back onto the world stage. If he cannot show verifiably that these election results that show him as the winner are real, then he's going to have a lot of trouble doing that.
We heard from the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who's actually in Japan right now, a short while ago, and he said the U.S. calls on Venezuela to share detailed vote tally. How likely is it that we are actually, or the U.S. are going to get access to a detailed vote tally?
Well, we know that the opposition, which has been running against Maduro, has been seeking those details too and hasn't gotten them. The latest report we got from the opposition was that they've gotten about 30% of the tabulated votes they're supposed to have access to verify the count. Whether the international community can do any better has yet to be seen. There are some election observers, some of the ones that we all know, like the Carter Center, are here in Venezuela. We'll hear from the Carter Center supposedly on Tuesday with their report on this election, so we may get some interesting details there. But yes, the U.S. Isn't the only one. The president of Chile just came out and said that he will not recognize the results until he sees some verifiable results.
Yeah. So assuming Maduro manages to hold on to this position and actually is formally reelected as next Venezuelan president, what does that mean for sanctions? And again, we know that the sanctions applied by the U.S. have crippled the Venezuelan economy over the course of the last decade. Should Maduro get another term, what does it mean for the prospect of the sanctions and, of course, the Venezuelan economy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as you remember, the U.S. did actually reinstate its sanctions on Venezuelan oil a little earlier when it became clear that the Venezuelan regime wasn't going to have a totally free and fair open election as the U.S. had expected. But it has allowed some oil producers to continue and even to start new business in Venezuela through an application process that the U.S. has through the Treasury Department. So that's really the sort of lever that they could pull back on, but it remains to be seen when they do that. They have a lot of incentive to keep oil flowing from Venezuela for various reasons, geopolitically, and also to do things that help improve the Venezuelan economy, because a lot of migrants are coming from Venezuela to the U.S. and they would like them to stay home and have jobs and be able to grow there instead of coming to the U.S.